Psychic Matters with Ann Theato, the top-ranked spirituality podcast.
Today on Psychic Matters, you are about to hear one of the most extraordinary near-death experiences ever recorded. After suffering 9 pulmonary emboli and spending over a month in hospital, Heather May flatlined, and she crossed into a realm few have ever seen. There she walked through the Crystal City, stood before the towering shelves of the Hall of Records, and entered places of profound healing and light. She was shown how the human energetic system truly works, how souls prepare for life on Earth, and why our connection to one another is the key to healing our world. Heather returned with extraordinary insights and a calling to help others awaken to their true power. And today, she's here on Psychic Matters to help you to understand the interconnectedness of all beings, to help you explore your own energy system, and to help you start living with more awareness, more compassion, and more purpose. Heather May, welcome to Psychic Matters.
Thank you so much, Anne, for having me and for sending my invitation. It's an absolute honor to sit and talk with you and to share my experience with all those who wish to hear it and maybe obtain something from it that they may find helpful or resonate with. So thank you.
I'm sure that they will, Heather. There's so much to cover here in this wonderful conversation we're about to have. I'm very excited. But listen, your story is so remarkable, and the insights that you gained from having your near-death experience are really profound. So before we dive into all that, and before we dive into what you encountered on the other side, maybe you could share a little bit with us all about your life leading up to that moment. What were the circumstances that brought you to that pivotal point?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started with a car accident, actually. I was the passenger at the time. My seatbelt wasn't working. I had no seatbelt. The driver, who was my boyfriend at the time, and my young daughter was in the back. Of course, everything was functioning for her as well for him. He blew a red light going through an intersection at 70 an hour. I don't know what that is in miles. I don't know, but anyways,
Fast
it was
for a red light.
And I do recall seeing this enormous old vehicle. It looked like it was green, and it looked like to be one of those big old Cadillacs, that somebody had obviously restored. Anyways, an absolute tank of a vehicle. And our vehicle was very small. It was very, very small. And so we hit head on as he also came out. He was turning. He came out of the intersection with his big vehicle and crushed us. Basically, the whole front end had like an accordion. I didn't have a seatbelt on. I had no idea really what was coming because I only ever saw everything out of the corner of my eye because I was actually looking out the other side of the window. But out of this side, I did see it was a red light. I was just starting to turn where I saw the vehicle hit us. I completely ate the dash of the car, which is why I do have crowns, fake teeth, whatever you want to call them, lost them. My legs damaged, my pants were ripped. I will also say it's the middle of winter. It was minus 38 Celsius.
That's cold.
The same as in Fahrenheit. It was brutally cold. I was obviously experiencing some type of trauma because I kept getting out of the vehicle. I would look at the front of the car. I would go to the back. I'd check on my daughter. I'd get back in, and I kept doing it. Part of me knew I was doing it. The other part of me seemed like I had no control of it. And I kept doing it over and over and over again. This Good Samaritans had come by. I guess he was a soccer coach, And he kept asking me if I knew my name, how many fingers, things like that. What was he holding up? What year was it? And I was just terribly, I guess I was in shock. I was confused. Good Samaritans had brought us into their vehicles, even though there was lots of blood and ripped clothing and all this going on. Unfortunately, there were lies that were told to the police officers by the at-time boyfriend. I didn't know this had happened. I didn't understand. Where's my ambulance? I needed an ambulance. At any rate, as time fast forwards, I do really need to see a doctor. I had an instant horrendous migraine, like the top of my head was going to blow off. I had never had a migraine or a headache in my life. It was really quite severe, probably concussion, but didn't know it at the time. Eventually, he managed to have us go to his mother's clinic, and records were hidden. Let's just put it that way. There was not a lot of medical assistance at the time. I had some x-rays done. My legs were not broken, but they were badly damaged. Stitches, my face, my lips were bleeding, all split. I had to go and see an orthodontist to do something with my mouth. Anyways, it went on and on. So as time went on, I wasn't in the hospital, probably should have been. What actually happened is it was after that I ended up having a severe Charlie horse.
What's
Now,
that?
a Charlie horse is where you have a continuous terrible cramp in your leg, usually in the calf, that does not go away. Sometimes people will have a Charlie horse. Maybe they need more potassium in their diet or magnesium or something. They'll get a Charlie horse, or sometimes when they're sleeping, or, they're not, maybe they don't move a lot through their day. At any rate, I had this Charlie horse. Now, I was an avid cyclist. I was cycling even as long as the streets were fairly clear. Even when it was cold, I cycled 10K every day, 6 days a week.
Wow, that's
And I struggled to do that. I worked for a newspaper. I was a newspaper editor, and I cycled to drop my daughter off at her day home. And then I cycled off to work after that, opposite ends of this very large, small city, what people consider a very small city, but in Canada, it's a city. At any rate, and I was really struggling. I still had a lot of numbness in my face. This did happen over the Christmas holidays. I did get to have a little bit of time off at that time before I went back to work, I should say. I did have some people notice my legs were black, not blue and green from bruising. They were black from the knees down. It was really severe. At any rate, so now I have to fast forward again. I'm sorry. So this is the end of February where I'm cycling. I'm still working. I have had a migraine ever since the car accident. It has never gone away. I saw several doctors with regards to the migraine, yes, but also with regard to the Charlie horse. And I just had a real hard time moving around overall. And I ended up seeing, this took all through end of February, all the way through to June. By the time I hit June, I was now seeing my 9th doctor. And my 9th doctor, I had talked about the car accident. They could see I still hadn't healed from it. By then, yes, my teeth were replaced with these crazy crowns. And I told them I was in horrendous pain. I wasn't sleeping very well. I've had a continuous migraine. I diagnosed myself at that time because I got tired of not being listened to. And I said, my concern is deep vein thrombosis from the car accident. And he laughed at me and told me I was being silly. I was being a silly young woman, a silly girl. And if that was the case, I would be in a tremendous amount of pain. Well, I was. I just was not that type of person. I don't know. I mean, what was I supposed to do? Cry. And that's what I said to him. Well, is it better if I cry? I am in tremendous amount of pain. And he said, 1 minute. And he went and got a colleague, another doctor. So I guess technically that was 10, who also examined me, talked to me, and said, don't be silly. Now, if somebody has deep vein thrombosis, their leg is very swollen, it's red, it's hot. I didn't show those type of attributes for a deep vein thrombosis, but I did have an extraordinary amount of pain from an ongoing Charlie horse for months, never went away. And he had said the same thing. Deep vein thrombosis are very painful, and obviously you're not in pain. And so I was told, I was worried because I was going on vacation to visit my grandparents in Penticton, British Columbia, and then going from there to visit my father and aunts and uncles in British Columbia, just not too far from Vancouver. And so that was my concern. And they said, well, just go, and you obviously need a holiday from work. You must be stressed. Go and have your holiday.
Okay, sounds
Don't
good.
worry about anything. You'll be fine.
Great.
I left there feeling, when you feel doom, and it was kind of like being on a ride or taking an elevator that kind of suddenly went down really fast. I felt that in my stomach.
Right.
Was not a good feeling, very concerning, but what could I do about it? I've tried and done my best. And so packed up, left at about 5:30 in the morning, that very next morning. And as we were driving in a sports car, of course, we have, I don't know if it was 5 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours drive. I suddenly didn't have a Charlie horse anymore.
Ah.
But what was interesting about that is I celebrated it. I thought, oh, how fantastic. Maybe I was wrong. And I feel good. I can walk. And I was ecstatic about it. We had a picnic, in one of the provincial parks, and everything was good. Had a little walk and got back into the vehicle, went to Penticton to visit my grandparents. And this was basically, I was presenting my fiance to my family.
They had not met your fiance before.
They hadn't met him before. So that's what that was also all about.
Okay.
We brought our bikes with us because we cycled. That's what we did.
Keen cyclists. Don't go anywhere without your bike.
Exactly. And so we got to Penticton. It was around supper time. I was very tired, very tired. I think I went to bed at 8:30.
Right.
Almost same time as my daughter. And I got up the next day still feeling quite tired, actually. Didn't quite know why. We did go cycling in Penticton. It's quite hilly. And I couldn't keep up to my daughter, who was 6.
Right.
So I thought, oh, maybe somehow I have a chest infection. Maybe somehow I got sick. It was just all very strange, and I didn't know why. I didn't know what the issue was. So, we didn't really do much cycling. We ended up going to the beach for a little while because, of course, what little child doesn't want to go to the beach? And so we did that for a little while. It was absolutely exhausting for me. I really wanted just to take a nap. We were leaving the next day. So went to bed again super early.
Had your grandparents at this point whispered behind your back, "We really like your fiance"? Had they given the go ahead?
No.
Okay.
They actually hadn't. I think they were still sizing him up.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. For them, he was not what they had hoped for, I think.
Oh, shame.
Yeah. And so we left the next morning to drive to meet my father in Langley, BC. Again, it's a few hours, about 3 and some. And we went to the Fort Langley with my daughter. It was a meeting place, but it was also an outing. Now, to be honest with you, I am really feeling tremendously bad. I am not the type of person, well, at that time, I don't do it anymore, but at that time, I didn't want to bring any attention to myself. I didn't want to say, hey, you know what? I think I'm really sick. Nope. I just carried on, pulled up my socks, very typical Scotsman like, and kept moving. And there was a picture actually of me, and you would never know that I was in tremendous pain. Did that with my father, my daughter, fiance. Then we followed him to his place. He had a beautiful home on a lovely acreage. At any rate, by the time we got there, I noticed I couldn't lean back in the chair. I couldn't have anything touching my back. That was a hard surface because it was extraordinarily painful.
Right.
I didn't know why, but it was very painful. So I sat like board straight. I mean, pretty much how I was taught as a child. Children are like pictures, right? Seen and not heard. Anyway, hands folded in lap. At any rate, I just sat there, a light chit chat, again, exhausted, put my daughter to bed, and then I followed not too long after, but I couldn't lay down. I had almost every pillow one could imagine behind me, and I kind of eased into it and said to my fiance at the time, I'm not well. I don't know what's happening or what's going on. Maybe I should see a doctor tomorrow. I'm not, it hurts, it's painful. I was also short of breath. Didn't know why. Thought, hey, maybe I have a bad chest infection. To be honest with you, as a child, I was quite a sickly child. I always had pneumonia. I always had bronchitis. I incarnated that way. And so it was also part of the reason why I didn't like to say anything about being ill, because my family was quite, as a child, irritated with me being ill all the time. And so it was a conditioning,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the next morning he was going, because we had a dinner party to go to that evening. So now it's the next morning at my father's place. He was going to his friend's house who had moved from Alberta to Vancouver. And that's where we were having the dinner party. I was not joining them till later because I was with my father, my stepmother, my daughter, visiting my family just outside of Vancouver. And they were all getting together at my aunt's house. However, by the time I got there, I was very quiet and not my usual self. Usually I'm joking and telling stories of silly things that had happened, may it be at work or just in general in life. I was just sitting quietly, which my father did notice because he said, don't you have anything that you want to share with anybody? And it was like, no.
Yeah.
I had no energy. I don't even know how long we stayed there. In my head, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I'm actually really unwell. I need to see a doctor. Now, recognize in my family, all the elder women anyways, were all nurses or psych nurses.
Okay.
And I said nothing.
So they didn't know, even though they had all that nursing ability that they could have given you advice, they didn't know because you didn't say that you were feeling that bad.
Yeah,
Okay,
precisely.
I gotcha.
Precisely. So it was time to leave from there. Of course, my father was going to watch my daughter. After all, it's his granddaughter. And he drove me to the dinner party, to which I wasn't talking to anybody. I wasn't able to eat anything. I certainly was not having drinks. People were having drinks and smoking, and it was an absolute party. But I was just kind of sitting like a lump, more or less.
Yeah.
I did say to my fiance at the time, I said, I am really unwell. I don't know how long I sat there. It got worse and worse. It felt like as the minutes went by, I did get up from there. Oh, the hostess actually had said, do you not like any of the appies? Did you not like the meal? So I didn't eat anything. And I said, oh, no, it's not that. I'm sure it's lovely. I'm not feeling well.
Yeah.
And so I did get up. I went to the washroom and I stood in front of the mirror, it's a big mirror, And I stood there and looked at myself for a bit of time. And I said, Heather, if you do not announce you need help, you are going to die. You need to tell people you need help. And it's a feeling that it's almost such a deep, incredible knowing that that's going to be happening. It's not like it really came from the outside. It was just a deep inside internal knowing. And so I left there. And by then everybody was in the house. Who knows how long I was in the washroom? I don't know. And the music was playing. It wasn't blaring. And I had said, I need an ambulance. And everybody looked at me, and I went over and I turned the music right down as they said, what? I need an ambulance. I need an ambulance right now, right now. I wasn't hysterical because it wasn't in my makeup to be. I was just what I thought was clear. And my fiance had said, no, don't call, because the guy had already picked up the phone. He said, no, don't phone for an ambulance. I'll drive her.
Right.
And I said, you don't even know anything about British Columbia. You don't know anything about Vancouver. It's easy to get lost. No, I want the ambulance. Next thing I know, I was picked up. I was stuffed in the vehicle. When they put me in, which made my back touch the back of that darn chair, I yelled out, right? Because it was painful. Closed the door and off. Now, at some point in time, I must have passed out because, to be honest with you, I'm not remembering the drive until now we're at the Canadian-US border. We're in that line, and it's almost like waking up. And I said, oh my gosh, why are we here? You got lost? And he said, yeah, I just have to go through and I'll turn around. I was feeling so horrendous by that time. By time I don't remember getting through and even speaking to the Canadian border person for the American side, the American, obviously. I don't remember that part. But as we were going, believe me, it's bumper to bumper to bumper. It takes a long time to get through. By time we got through there, and then we had to circle around to come back into the line to come into Canada. Well, by the time that happened, I had lost my ability to talk and then to hear. I really needed to go to the washroom. Not that I really needed to. I didn't know what to do with myself. I had pointed at it. He stopped. I got out. There was a long counter with a lot of sinks. I kind of slid my body along there till I got to the wall. So I'm in between the counter and the hand dryer, which is what's holding me up. And I'm just standing there. And I don't know how long I was there for. I guess I was feeling despair at that time. I don't really know what to do. I could only talk in my head, could only communicate in my head. This elderly lady had come in. Gosh, she was lovely. She had come in, she looked at me. I mean, I must have looked god awful. I probably was pale or gray, who knows what. She had come over to me and was talking, but all I could see was her mouth moving. I couldn't hear her. I couldn't say anything. I'm screaming in my head, I need help, I need help, I need help. But that's in my head. So she was taking my temperature. She felt, how they used to feel under the ear, and then she felt my forehead, and she's talking to me. I have nothing. I'm screaming in my head. She goes to the washroom. She comes out. She washes her hands. She's looking at me, talking to me. My thought was, oh my gosh, is it possible she thinks I may be on drugs of some kind? And really I need help. And then she left. I did splash some water on my face and said, you got to get out of this washer. You got to get out of here. So I slid back along the counter. I opened the door. I was hand over the car that was still, he was waiting. Now he must have found I was there for a long time because he was quite irritated. You know, when somebody's irritated, you can't hear them, but they're like, you know, and I just kind of looked at him. I had nothing to say because I couldn't speak. And we left. And now we're in the line to go back to Canada. And the Border Patrol guy there, he did point at me. Now, I didn't fully turn, but I could turn a bit. And I did look and I thought, oh gosh, and he could be my savior. He could help me. Surely he notices that I'm not doing well. He could save me. He could help the whole situation. I don't know what my fiance said, but then he waved us through. And it was at that moment of time that I knew there was no help. There was going to be no help, and I was going to die. I just knew it right then and there. We're driving. I remember it being a very dark, kind of a dark, lonely highway. For all I know, he asked this person directions. I don't even know. I remember this terrible S turn. It was an exit and an S turn. And he was taking it quite fast, actually, which made me scream out. By then, the pain in my head, screaming, by then the pain was so horrendous beyond anything I had ever experienced in my life. Beyond words, even. It was so severe. I must have passed out and then came to, and the dash of the vehicle is right in front of my face. And I could see the leather design. I could see a bit of the wood, and I was confused with that. I was like, why am I so close to the dash? Look at the design in the leather. I'm close to all the buttons and everything. Didn't make any sense to me. I guess I was pulled back by that stage, back in my seat. And then after that, it really was lights out. So it was slow. It was a progressive thing. I knew I was going to die. My number was called. It's kind of like your number's called, you know it. I had that intense feeling of knowing this is it for me. At first, I was afraid. I didn't want to die, you know, I really didn't want to die. But this darkness started to come, but it had a sound to it too. It was kind of like almost like a breeze, but you don't feel the breeze, but the sound of it. And it came from a bit behind and over me until all I could see out of was a tiny pinhole. And eventually that was gone. And so I am completely in or embraced by this blackness that's black like we don't know here on this plane. So black, so devoid of light of any kind. I was 100% alone. That wasn't the scary part. I was elated with the fact I wasn't in pain. But to be quite honest with you, I didn't know where I was. And I didn't even know at this stage, it wasn't until later I recognized, but it wasn't until that I didn't know I was dead, to be honest with you. People will say, well, everyone knows when they're dead, but no, not really. Not when it's fast like that. And I had no historical background in any religious anythings. So I'm in this black place, but it's truly calm. I feel very calmed. I feel very comfortable. It's kind of like floating. You're kind of floating. You're suspended, but you're floating all at the same time. It's not like you're dropping in through somewhere. You're not. It's a floating feeling. What I always likened it to was for anybody who has managed to be at a lake where there's absolutely nobody. Maybe that's more in my rural area of Canada, but anyways, there's absolutely nobody. It's early morning. The lake is like a mirror. It's so calm and it's quiet. and it would be like floating on your back with your eyes closed. That's what it reminded me of. Very, very peaceful. But at the same time, I was also very curious. I was so curious in the fact that I wanted to know, how dark is it really here? How dark is it really? And so I had put my hand in front of my face because I want to know, can I see my hand? Now, not recognizing I'm dead, so this obviously would be yes, myself, but on an energetic level, I could not see my hand. I couldn't see anything. As time went along, I noticed way off in the distance was kind of like a tiny speck of light. Because of course, you know, in this place, any type of light you are going to notice immediately. It was like so black. And so I kind of watched it, and I had noticed, oh, it got a little bigger. Oh, look at that, it's getting bigger. I wonder what that is. I was always a curious person. And in this stage, I'm still a curious person. I'm curious. And so I'm watching it and watching it. It's getting closer and closer. And then I realize, oh, wait a minute. That looks like a funnel. And it's coming closer and closer. I'm keeping my eye on it. I'm not feeling extraordinarily comfortable at this stage because it is getting quite big. And then next thing I know, it's kind of over me, and I'm being almost like being slowly beamed up into it. I do not have any control whatsoever. And it swirled, it moved, it had a lot of motion to it. I kind of look up, and for anybody who's wondering why I look up, because each time I talk about this, it's like a running movie in front of my face. And so that's why I look up. It had this incredible light and gray and sparkling white light within it as it swirled and moved, seemed quite large. And as I'm being drawn in there, I'm not feeling very comfortable right now. I decided to stretch my arms and legs out, kind of like a starfish, because I wanted to touch the sides, because quite frankly, I wanted to stop the movement. Once I did that, it widened. So I could not. Now, it was at that moment of time that I was actually completely freaked out. I was frightened. I had no control, which is why I was so frightened. I couldn't stop this process. There was nothing I could do because obviously it widened. I couldn't touch the sides. Who knows what the sides were, anyways. And I continue going up and up. I did look up, and as I looked up, it was even brighter. Like the higher that we went, the brighter it got. And I had no idea what that was, what's happening. All I know is I'm frightened at this stage. And as I got to the very top of it, it was kind of like being popped out into this incredible light. And it was like not just a blinding white light. There was more to it than that. It was kind of had a bit of a bluish, baby bluish tinge to it, but it was dimensional light. It was like a live light. It had movement to it. It had levels to it. It was very interesting. But of course, I was shielding myself by this stage. The brightness was just like nothing I could liken it to here.
When
Not
you say sorry to interrupt you because it's fascinating, but when you say dimensional light, can you explain a little bit more about that? What was that again to you?
To me, it was okay. Let's just imagine you turn on your light switch, or somebody shines a really bright light at you. It doesn't have the feel of many levels to it, many different tones to it. It's one tone.
Yeah.
And yeah, may it be having a bit of a yellow tinge to it, a brilliant white tinge to it, or a bluish tinge. This was kind of all of them in it. And it came from everywhere. It wasn't just shining at me. It was I'm enveloped in it, and it's expansive. It's enormous. It just felt to me, not that I knew energy at the time, okay? Not that I knew it at the time. It just felt to me that there were different tones of light within that light. Now, as time was going along, it felt, yes, more like a consciousness. So maybe that's why, to me, it felt like it had many dimensions to it. There was just so much more to it than just light. And it ever so brilliant. And so the area that I'm in, which is very interesting because it's like you're standing on something, but it doesn't make sense because why is there a floor? But I'm standing on something, obviously. Way off in the distance, I don't know how far. Now, if anybody's been to a nighttime like football game, and you know how they have those incredible lights, they're bright, they're enormous, there's so many of them. If you took all of them and stacked them all on top of each other, and then have a large group of people start walking from that light. Now, at first, I didn't notice anybody other than the distance of that light was different. The people, it was sort of like a very vague outline. Then it was more like silhouettes coming towards me. And I'm not talking about maybe 10 people. I'm talking about like 100, 150 people. Maybe it was more, maybe it was 200 people. There was it was a massive group. And now I'm really afraid. I'm very much afraid now. And I'm kind of vile with my language as they're getting closer and closer. And I'm putting my hand up and saying, stop and F off, back away from me, get the F away from me. You know, I was not nice about the whole thing at all. And I was very much myself with my language and everything else, and frightened, really
You'd be
frightened.
petrified, would you not? I mean, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And they kept coming and kept coming. And that's why, as they kind of spread out in a group, was how I recognized there were so many of them. And so it really was back the F away, back the stop. You know, I'm screaming it actually. Now there's a few people in the very front. The group stops and then the others come forward. So, but now I can see their faces. And I'm looking, and I had realized, oh, I know some of these people. There's my Uncle Dick, and there's my Aunt Alice, and there's my great grandfather and my grandfather, and there's people I knew. Now, perplexing because wait a minute, they died. Right? They died. And now I'm still not sure. I really don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. I even told them to F off. F off. My great grandmother steps towards me, and she's maybe a hand width away from me at this stage. And this part always makes me cry. She had said, Heather, you have died. I couldn't grasp that. And so she had said it again, Heather, you have died. And I was like, no, 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 this can't be. How can this be? And you know how you put your hands over your eye, your face? I had dropped to the floor. I'm on my knees now. You know how you cradle yourself, your forehead's even on your knees, you're like kind of in a ball. And I'm crying, can't be, it can't be, it can't be. Obviously, she stepped back, and there was this different feel that came because I'm this way, and from over here was a different feel of energy. I can only liken it to that. of that had like some golden light in it. It was different. And I knew it was different. It was just a real deep knowing there's a difference here now. I was told I was going to be okay. You're going to be okay. But it was very peaceful, very genuine, very caring, very loving. And when I paused for a moment now, instead of all my freak out and bawling and everything else, that was when I realized the light in general was very welcoming, was supportive, incredibly loving energy, I guess we'd call it now. But I didn't notice that right away because I was too busy in my freaking out. When I did stand up, what was kind of odd was I noticed the group of people were of, I couldn't figure out if they knew me from different lifetimes. There were some war vets from World War One, even. There was a Knights Templar. There was what I called a really poor king. He had a crown, but it was not what we consider how a king would be.
And
He had
so you're surmising that these are possibly people from past lives, aspects of your
possibly,
soul, possibly.
possibly, or somehow they knew me, but at that moment of time, I didn't know them. They were just part of the group. And there were certain ones that I noticed. I noticed the elderly lady in brown rags, even like a brown rag ripped shawl, kind of all hunched over. I recall her.
You were
My
talking as well about the really poor king.
Yeah, and he was more back there. He did have a robe on, but his crown was almost like very medieval made. It was interesting. It's not what we would ever consider a king to be wearing. No. So that's why I called him the poor king. And there were many, many, many others. And so with this energy that's still with me, telling me everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay, I was then removed from this whole entire setting, which was too bad because I didn't get to ask anything. I was then off to the life review. The life review was, you're completely immersed in it. You're everything. It's not like, for me anyways, maybe for other people it was, but not for me. It wasn't like watching it on screens. It was like the whole place that I was in was a living echo or a living record of my entire my life. In every aspect, I'm not only just the viewer, I'm the experiencer, I'm the doer, I'm noticing it energetically, I'm noticing it consciously. Everything that happened, I'm experiencing it in all encompassing ways. Example, if you can imagine, oh, I guess, if you know how you can put those VRs on and you can have an experience, maybe you're in Egypt. It's kind of
Yes.
liken it to that. But so you're really immersed in it, but you feel everything. You know everything, all the thoughts, all the feelings, everything about it. And so as I'm being shown things,
Are you knowing your own thoughts or thoughts of other people?
other people, what they thought, what they felt, what they experienced, what the energy exchange was, how did they, what did they do with the energy? Our words, our energy, it goes into people, it goes into their auric field. Some people take it right entirely into their body. They bring it into a belief structure that they may already have about themselves. And so it's impacting, it's adding to that belief structure. I could feel and know their thoughts. you just know everything. You just know everything. And so their example, I was in a group home, not exactly a foster home, but sort of, I guess. Anyways, it wasn't a very good one. And you age out of those, and you're kind of left out onto the streets. If you have a place to go, good for you. A lot of the girls didn't. Some of us, I got student loans, I did go to college, but not everybody has that belief in themselves that they can do these things. So there was other girls in there who didn't know how to support themselves once they age out, and they turned to things that happens, it's, may it be stripping, or may it be selling their bodies, or they're on survival. They couldn't get a job for whatever reason. I mean, let's face it, once we're finished high school, we don't really have a whole lot of work experience, so it can be pretty tough. If you don't have an address, that's not going to work for you to have a job. You have no address, so you're pretty much on the streets. And so there was this young girl there. She hadn't been newly in the group home, obviously younger than me because I was about to age out. And her belief was, well, after this, I guess I can work at a club. And I said, because I had said to her, I said, we're more than our body, and you're a smart girl. You could continue. Don't give up on your high school. Don't ever give up on your education. You could apply for student loans and go to college and not be a statistic. They all expect us to be a statistic, and that we are hopeless and we are not going to contribute too much to society. And I didn't know that she really took that to heart. And this part gets me too. She went to school. Yeah, she went to school, and she didn't do that. Anyways, I was very happy for her.
But you hadn't known that in your physical life, but you found that out through this experience where she was
Yeah.
able to share thoughts with you.
Yeah, because I was being shown how sometimes we don't recognize even the smallest things, or brief conversations with people can change somebody's life. And so that's what I was being shown. And I had no idea, because once you leave these government institutions, more or less, you lose touch with these people. That's what happens. You lose touch with each other. And so I was beyond happy for her. Yeah. But then there's other aspects. So, sometimes we have frenemies. And I had a few friends like that. Sometimes we were wonderful friends, and other times we were in battle, and we were physically beating each other up or yelling not nice things to one another. And I was shown that as well. And the reason why I was shown that, because on how we receive verbal, energetic information, on how we receive thought information. So anger and rage have a very prominent energy signature to it. And people really do take it in. They can take it into their heart center and take it as true, incredible level of wounding. They can take it into their will center. They can bring it right down into their main belief structure as an add-on, that they're no good, that they're not going to be anything, that they're not under their own sense of will. And it was showing me all that, as well as how I was also taking it in from how I was being treated from her or from other people. And I would file, and she filed the information. We file it. It was like using our physical bodies like file systems, until a later date, if ever, that we are going to look at these unprocessed experiences in our life, and to have a better understanding, and so that we can release that because it's a non-truth. So I was shown all that, and how we interact with one another. and when it's beautiful and when it's loving, and really how that lifts somebody. It just lifts their spirit. In some regards, it can even heal parts of themselves when they are supported in a loving, conscientious way. Doesn't mean they hang off you, but just you maybe said something to them, an attribute that you've noticed they have, but they've questioned. And so they'll bring it into a belief. And so that helps them rise. Excuse me. The other parts that I had was also being shared with and shown was sometimes we can take it into a cellular level and how it can transition the frequency of particular cells. So let's say somebody who takes a lot of information that they find it very hard to cope with, they swallow it and they ingest it. And so they place it in the stomach. And then how that inflames the nervous system and how it affects the cellular structure eventually for that person with their stomach, their digestive system. Perhaps they already have a deregulated nervous system. It just adds to it. So I was shown that. I was shown the communication between nuclei, between cellular structures, on how they communicate with one another. The cells aren't all smooshed up against each other. There's space there, and they communicate with each other. They help each other, and wherever it's going to be in the body, may it be in the brain, and may it be in the lungs, may it be in the heart. I mean, there's so much to us. We really are a miracle. Human bodies.
Did you learn? Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Did you learn when we take these things in at a cellular level, as you say? I can understand that because some people, especially sensitives, mediums, psychic people, we feel so much. Did you learn how can we not absorb it so deeply into our cells, as it were?
Yes, absolutely. Because then we come into that understanding of we can be the observer, but to understand it does not mean we have to absorb it. And to really have that understanding that we don't bring it in and claim it, because there's a claiming that ends up happening to further an understanding. And as empaths, HSPs, highly sensitive people of variant degrees, tend to do that. Sometimes I did it as a child because I was trying to understand my horrific life situation. And so I have been an HSP, certainly an empath, certainly. So I would take the confusing, abusive situation, whatever it happens to be, and I would bring it inward to understand it better, so that this was me working on myself to have these understandings, so that I could actually then learn how to cope. If I had that level of understanding. However, we don't need to do that. And yes, we have to be highly aware that is what we are doing. There's also, I was shown using energy that we can, excuse me, protect ourselves until we really have integrated that understanding that we don't need to bring it inward to have the complete understanding as to what is going on with somebody or ourselves or information or what has, because a lot of times it's multi-leveled understanding, and so we'll take it inward. But you can create. Now, a lot of people talk about using white light. I really prefer to work with the plasma. So it's an energetic plasma, and the reason to surround yourself with that is because you can still have this beautiful exchange of energy with source, with your guides, with people that are sharing love in your heart center, everything's open to receiving love and grace and everything else. You can still experience that, but anything else on a lower frequency, we'll call it, is not permitted to penetrate. It stops there. It stops at the beginning.
So, for people who may not have heard of this plasma, could you explain a little bit about what that is or how they might use that themselves?
A lot of people have heard about embracing all around you like a cocoon or an orb of white energy. It's the same effect, but you're using plasma. And the reason why I call it plasma, you can liken it to this. Have you ever been on a highway in the middle of the summer and it's hot wherever you are?
Mm-hmm.
And you will have that approximately in the distance, you'll see the heat, and it almost looks like plasma, but it's a heat range. Sometimes you can see it shimmering, you can see it moving, and plasma very much not like that, but you can still see through it. But it's extraordinarily powerful. It really, truly is. I also learned from traveling down what I called wormholes because I didn't know what to call them. There's some that were more like plasma, some that had a lot of color in them. You're moving very, very fast, mind you, through these little wormholes. There's also, there was a TV show or a movie where one of the beings was, you could see through it, but you could also see the movement like there was something else there,
Yes, I know.
like that.
Was it Predator or something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that's the plasma.
Right.
It's very, very strong,
And you
but
put that in that's so what are we doing? Imagining it is there or it is there?
you call it in, call it in, but it's
In
always,
like, so we step into an oval bubble of it. Is that what how you would
yeah,
call it
it's
in?
like stepping right into it. You can call it in to be presented for you from whatever your belief structure is, as if it's God, if it's Allah, if it's the divine, the sacred, the holy. That's how I always call things in, the divine, the sacred, and the holy, to be presented to me for, and I'm always clear on why, for the support and the energetic protection of myself, for
Yes.
myself, whatever it happens to be. I mean, do I walk around with it 24/7? No, but I do use it in certain circumstances. I do. Absolutely. It is very helpful. Working and understanding through the life review and understanding karma, understanding with how energy works around the human body, within the human body, how we affect each other with energy. It was very in depth, and it felt like so much education that it was forever, but really it wasn't, obviously, but it was really in depth. And it really, that truthfully was an evolution of understanding. It did take me time to really integrate all that information and to learn how to work with it. This was also the time period where I was shown karma and family and how we choose our family, like parents, siblings,
How do
even,
we choose them? That's a really interesting question for some of us.
yeah, you know, we have a group of those that assist us, we can call it that, those that assist us before we incarnate on the physical bodies that are going to create us and the physical body that's going to bring us into incarnation. Obviously, the mother and the father. Now, for some people, they may come through that way and then they are adopted or, brought to another family. That is actually even part of it as well. That's part of it as well. The siblings and certain big experiences. Not everything is a contract. Not every single thing that you go through in life is going to be an agreement. So we'll have our exit points. I have had other exit points that I didn't go through. I did go through that last one, mind you, but okay. You know, there's other exit points that I have. I believe it's 2 others. And everybody has, you don't just have one exit point. You really don't. You have others. Big experiences that you chose to kind of like check off. Oh, yeah, you know, in this incarnation, I want to be male. In this incarnation, I want to go to this place on the planet. In this incarnation, I really do need to experience on how to manage extreme adversity. We will choose that. Definitely. In this lifetime, I'm going to choose for myself very young parents who actually did not know how to parent and who would put me, i.e., myself as a girl child, in some really horrific experiences. I did choose those. And through my life review, these were the things that I was shown. I was also shown that my mom and I had several lifetimes together. My father, not as many as my mom, my siblings. And it was really quite interesting because this went into my stepfather, who was a brutal human being. But in another lifetime, we had lifetimes in the past, and he assaulted children. And in another lifetime, I murdered him. And so we're in a karmic role in this lifetime. And my uncle as well. My uncle and I, in another lifetime, we were a wife.
What's the role of karma then?
So the role of karma actually is to obtain the information, yes, but to integrate that information into an understanding for the actual soul purpose to rise in awareness, consciousness, knowing. Once we come to that part, we never lose it because it's wisdom. And so when we have that soul wisdom, it actually is on a different frequency. It also helps the soul to rise to a different frequency overall. Not everything, well, for me anyways, worked out that way, to be honest with you. I had things that I had to, like a redo with people. There are many levels. I found this really quite interesting actually, because there were so many levels to the resting place of the souls that come in and make and create the consciousness. Consciousness has levels to it, interestingly enough. So let's say, oh, I don't know, let's say they're Hitler. We'll say Hitler, okay? The atrocities that he had implemented on our world, planet, and people. His soul is not going to be at the same level of frequency as mine or yours or many people out there. It is a lower frequency. Can I say what level? I don't know. Is it level 2? There was no indication that there was a hell. No indication whatsoever there was a hell. There was frequencies of a soul. So a soul vibrating on a higher frequency of, let's say, a 5 or a 6 is not going to be in the mix of souls on a 2-level frequency. It doesn't work. It's kind of like here, as your frequency rises, your consciousness rises, your awareness rises, and People are drawn to you who are of similar frequency. I'm sure a lot of people have noticed that over time. On a soul level, it's very similar to that. It's
Right.
very similar to that. There's even different realms, angelic realms as well. I was shown that. There's really high frequencies of, we like to call them angels. We do. We feel very comfortable calling them angels. But the truth is, they're beings.
When you say a being, is that an energy, a consciousness, an essence, a frequency? What is a being?
A being actually houses all of that. So a being is of, depending on where they're from, could be of a very, very high frequency. They have high level of wisdom, because once you pass knowledge, you enter wisdom. They are light. They don't have a form like us. They don't even have an angelic form, really. They can be a ball of light. The interesting thing I found about beings or guides or angels, they will appear and show themselves to us and are very, very conscientious on what it is we can manage. So they're not going to present themselves in a way that is going to shock us, send us into, oh my gosh, this is horrifying. They're not going to do that. They're not. It's kind of like when my near death and my grandparents all stepped forward. They don't live in that form because they're souls.
That's right.
But they presented themselves that way for me, because of course I'm freaking out, but because I was most comfortable with that. Most comfortable as much as one could be. So it's the same thing when it comes to guides. It's the same thing when it comes to beings. The more comfortable you are in your awareness and consciousness, they know that. So if you're going to be presented with a light being meaning there could be kind of an outline of an incredible shining light, a light being, or it could be an orb. It could be an orb. So it really is depending upon what our comfort level is.
So the light being would be within the orb.
Yeah. Your consciousness of it,
Yes.
all that it is this orb. Yeah.
And then, Heather, what is your understanding of an angelic being then?
Well, interestingly enough, I had zero belief structure of angels. Zero. I was presented with some, interestingly enough. Some it was the whole wings and everything, which was interesting. Some were of pure white wings, feathers. Some were of, the wingspan started off as a lighter color, and then as it went down, it got darker. Maybe it's darker gray, but it's white, and then a heather gray, and a lighter tone of gray, and a medium gray, until it was quite interesting, actually. Very big, 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 big beings, like of angels, massive. I would liken that to, in my day, I have called on Archangel Michael, who's quite big. I have called upon them. There's others who, angelic beings from a very, very, very high realm, and I'm talking about 11, 12 level frequency, where they have kind of like an outline of that. As a matter of fact, I did have 7 of them around my bed at one point in time, but it doesn't look exactly like they've got wings, but it's sort of there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. But how do they differ then from a light being? What is the purpose of an angelic being? Why do we call them these different things?
Well, one, human nature is comfortable with it. And so whatever our comfort is, how that is going to be presented. Angelic beings, depending upon what realm they're in, are always willing to assist us and to show up in what's comfortable for us. I really hope I answered that properly. You've got other levels that are really just light. And if somebody's comfortable with experiencing just light as an angelic being, not all angelic beings have incarnated. There's some who have never. They don't even come from here, meaning beyond Earth. They could even be from other dimensions.
So then you have visited a place called the Crystal City and a place of great healing. Can you go a little bit into that for us?
Yeah. So first, after my life review and understanding of karma, how that worked, what I chose to heal in my karmic experiences, past lives, into this life, I really did choose a full plate. I did, because I wanted this to be my last incarnation here. And I didn't know that until I was over there. Anyways, I was shown the place of healing. After that, after the angels, after the guides, after all that information, to the place of healing, there's the interesting thing was the marble. I didn't anticipate that. How could I? I mean, there's marble floors and marble structures, pillars, I guess we could call it, because I touched it. And it's white marble, by the way. And there is kind of like a healing pool, healing waters. We went by that. We continued to this place where some souls have had such a very hard lifetime. And they go to this, it seemed more intense place of healing. And it's almost like being kind of like in a little sort of place of crystal where the soul actually is, and it emanates different frequencies of healing. I noticed some were like a very pale pink, some were like blue, some were opal, different frequencies, but souls could be in a place of healing for a long time. Not that there's time, but in my understanding, because one of my things was, how did I not ever see my grandmother? She had flitted in and out a few times to mention about dangers, but she always said she can't stay, can't stay, can't stay. She'd flit in and flit out. But she was in the place of healing for a very, very long time, was my understanding. She had a very, very hard life. And there's not like a time limit. Okay, well, you've been there for however long, maybe a millennium. Yeah.
So you're saying after a physical life, a soul might go to this beautiful place
Yes,
just to recover themselves from the experience of being incarnated into a difficult life here, and they can
yes,
stay as long as they like.
absolutely. They stay for as long as they need. The understanding for many would be you shed all this when you go through the transition. But a soul actually does not necessarily do that, which is why we can have, when we do past life soul regression, we actually can connect with things that the soul has gone through. It has the information, but perhaps does not always have the level of psychological, physical, emotional crippling. This is why one goes into the place of healing for whatever duration of time is up to them, but it's not, everything is not like obviously completely shed. Do you know what I mean? Because I remember when I came back and I was talking to my mom about it, and I said, do you know that there's so much information like beyond our auric field that we can pull from our soul essence memory and pull that information towards us to remember a specific lifetime. But it doesn't mean that the soul is crippled from it, but it does have the wisdom from it. My mom thought I was totally crazy, mind you,
Yeah.
but so that's kind of how my understanding of that's how that works.
Yeah.
Once I had an understanding of the place of healing, the two places, I mean, some souls, they just go into the pool of healing and that's the end of it. And they're good to go. Others have had horrific times. And then, and then it was the Akashic records. And then after that, it was the place of learning. And then it was the auditorium. There's a lot of times we can come in from our life and we will share that with our soul group who have been on the other side. They didn't incarnate this lifetime, and we can share it with them on what we experienced. So there's that. I eventually was shown some ways of travel, we can call it travel. This is where I didn't know what to call it, so I called it wormholes. And so even when I was going to the Crystal City, which I didn't know I was going there, by the way, I had traveled through this wormhole that was so incredibly fast. Faster than the speed of light and sound and everything. I actually didn't know if I could survive it. It was a bumpy ride for me. And it was the colors flashing through this plasma kind of tube thing with all the colors until I got over there and I was at the Crystal City's over here. I was more or less over here. I was not within the Crystal City. I would love to have been there inside it. I could see it from a distance. And somebody had greeted me there. I remember them walking towards me, and it was a woman. And just to look at the beautiful, shimmering crystal, the frequency, the energy, the colors, all of it was just, it's hard to find words for it. Beyond amazing, beyond beautiful, beyond magnificent. Just absolutely in awe of it. It felt so wonderful. And I was embraced by this person, and the whole place felt like home. And she felt like home, and it was like a welcome. And felt so good. It felt so good. And I was told I couldn't stay. And I said, I know, can't stay. But I wish I was an artist, because I would like to be able to recreate that for people to see.
Did you, it just came into my mind here, Heather, did you get any understanding about extraterrestrials or star beings on other planets that we think we can communicate with, or people have seen themselves on this planet?
Yeah, I did.
You want to share with us any insights?
I'll share a little bit. I'm not wonderfully comfortable with it. I've had a lot of nasty people within my family when I had talked about even a little bit of it. I almost lost my daughter over it because I had drawn all the pictures of everything. And it was going to be used in a court of law.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I don't have my diaries. They got all taken. But when we're talking about our guides, they are not necessarily just looking like us. Some of them actually are very high vibrating beings. Now, depending upon the frequency we incarnate it with, we start off with, we incarnate with, there are entities. Some of them I've seen are like blue entities. There are many different types of grays that I have seen. They're not all horrendous. That's not true. They're not all horrendous. When I was presented with the cosmic board, I called it the cosmic board. They were very comfortable with me calling it the cosmic board. I don't know if that's what they want to be called, but that's what I called them. When I was presented with them, they were beings. meaning ETs from all over the universe. And there were 9 of them at almost like a board table, an oval board table. And so when I was brought there, there's a space in front of that table, almost sort of like a little podium, but not quite. And so I stood there. I didn't sit at this table. I was not to sit there. There was no chair, no. And to talk with them. But some of them were brilliantly white beings. Some of them were just like a ball of moving energy, which was interesting. The light beings, the eyes, the eyes, definitely were there. I guess a lot of people would say, oh, they were all ETs. They're actually all from different dimensions. They all come together. They're of a great support. We can obtain information if we are at a frequency level of understanding to receive it. Because otherwise it will be lost upon us because we can't hold the information, so they're not going to give it to us. One of the questions I did ask when I was there is if I could change my contract, if I can alter my main contract in this lifetime. And I was told no. There were certain aspects of contracts that I could maybe make some changes, but to remove them, no, absolutely not, which I felt really sad about, because I was hoping to be able to do that and not go through some of the things that I knew I was going to come through when I reincarnated through this physical body. They were very loving, they were very kind, but they were also like the old wise ones, so full of incredible wisdom from different planets.
It sounds just extraordinary, and yet not, because I've experienced things like this in my dream state and my astral travel. But did you get a sense of the divine presence of all things, of God?
I feel that I did when it was not just that, felt like multi-dimensional levels of the white light, right? But when something more came, and no. Was there a face? No. Was there a body? No. It was pure light. But it's almost like, even on a soul level, even on that level of me freaking out, it absolutely calmed me, and I 100% knew that I am in the presence of something far more. And it wasn't just because I could see some gold. It wasn't just that. It was, it's almost like the all. It's hard to find the language. The all aware, the all knowing, the all of everything. It was very hard to find the language for it, to be honest with you. But it was just knowing that you're in the presence of something far bigger and more than you could ever imagine.
Amazing.
Far more.
And you
Yeah.
believe that every soul comes in with a contract or a purpose?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, oh God, I'm having a hard day. What's the point of my life? Why am I here?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. For a while, I had wondered, why did I have the near-death experience to begin with?
Yeah.
I had shut down so much of myself. I had hidden away my light so much from that as a child, to then, by the time I was 15, 16, to that of a young adult. I was so far away from more or less what I came to do. And it's not that I knew exactly what that was when I was younger. I didn't. I just knew that it was really important for me to, yes, be of service. Yes, we're all to be of service. And whatever that's going to be, it doesn't mean it has to be enormous. It doesn't mean, I mean, somebody being of service, even as a carer, or, you know, somebody who is of service in supporting their neighbors. I mean, my gosh, that's huge. You know, to be kind to one another is also of service. So some people see it as, oh, it has to be something really big, but it's not. It's also to the remembering that we are more. We're more than our bodies. We're more than this. We have so much knowledge, and to remember that we have abilities, because we forget. And we can all call in energy. We can all connect with our body. We can all actually work with energy. We just forgot how to do it. Part of us being here is also for that remembering. We're energetic beings. Once the soul leaves here, the soul is energy. The soul is what makes the body operate. All that energetic component. Once the soul's out, the body can't function, because it's like a big battery, I guess we can call it, you know, it's like a big battery. And when we're looking at our soul purpose, and like I have said to even other people, what makes you feel good? Really, what makes you feel good? For a long time, I've done a lot of different things in life. What made me feel good was living my promise. I really made a promise to come back here, because otherwise I wasn't coming back. You know, I made a promise to heal, and I made a promise to share. There was a period of time that my sharing, of course, is my service. I'm of service. And however that was going to be presented, I was never told, well, first you do this, Heather, and then you do that. And no, I had to figure it out on my own. The only thing I really knew, because I was told, I was going to have to heal myself. I was going to have to take all that information they gave me, utilize it, and do my own healing, which was bloody hard, to be honest with you. Really, honestly. And then share that information. You can't share what you haven't walked. There was a period of time that I was really worried that my healing was taking too long, and I was afraid that I wasn't living my promise, and by not living my promise, they would be taking me right back, and I'd leave this planet. I actually thought that. I thought it was taking too long, and I wasn't doing the work soon enough and fast enough, and that was my very physical mind creating that anxiety for myself. But it was something I really believed, that if I didn't do the work I needed to do, I wouldn't be here much longer, that I was taking too long, you know, to heal, which turned out not to be true. But it's something that I thought shortly after my NDE.
Heather, if there's one essential truth that you've learned on the other side that you'd like humanity to understand, what would that be?
The absolute truth, in my understanding when I was on the other side, is truly we are brothers and sisters. We are family. We are an earth family here. And in order to create change in how things are and have been going on this planet, it really is up to us to work together as a family. I don't care where you are in the world. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. We really are all connected. There is human beings, and that's it. It doesn't matter what the belief structures are. It doesn't matter where you're born in the world. It doesn't matter what your culture is. It doesn't matter what your skin tone is. We are all brothers and sisters, all of us. and we affect one another in either wonderful ways or in ways that create harm. And we really need to understand we're far more powerful than we give ourselves credit. And we are far more powerful united together to create change.
Beautiful. And to finish your story, you were there. We're going back to your physical self then to finish off our lovely interview. You passed out, you died, you had all these experiences. And then what had happened to you? Had you had all these embolisms at that time? What had happened? And then how did you get back to your body and get back to being Heather May?
Yes, I was going to complete the transition. I had asked not to. I think one of my moments of grief on this level was that I didn't get to do anything. It was too short. I wanted to come back, and it was kind of like a negotiation almost. And that I promise, I promise, I promise, I will share everything. I will share the work I have to do for myself. I will share the NDA experience. I will help. I will be a helper. I'll be of service this way. And I was told that, are you sure? Because you see, my original contract was not that I was going to come back to a really physically damaged body. And so I was reminded, okay, now you need to understand before you make this decision, you're going to come back, you will be in tremendous pain. You are going to have tremendous pain for a long time. You will have so much healing to do, and not all things will heal. There's going to be a lot of trauma. Yep, okay. I still want to go back. I do. I understand that, and I will, think I'll take everything I learned here and I will go back, and I'll really truly believed I could do it. And just didn't know how long it was going to take. So I came back, and it was almost kind of like being slammed into that physical body. I was at a hospital with tubes and oxygen and doctors and pain, lots of pain. My sternum was broken from chest compression and everything. And just, there was so much going on, to being a long hospital stay. I was released in the afternoon on my 31st day.
Oof.
I had a lot of specialists, hemoglobin specialists, heart specialists, internist, neurologists. There was another time I was by myself, obviously, with doctors all around my bed. And this is when I woke up. I was more conscious, aware, I guess would be the term. And I looked at everybody, and this pulmonary specialist that they flew in from Seattle to Vancouver, he had looked at me and he said, "Oh my gosh, look, she's awake." And I kind of smiled, and he said, "Look, after all that, she smiles." But my thing was, yes, but I have a secret. That's what I was smiling about. His whole thing, and all the doctors around, were in disbelief that, do you even recognize you're a miracle to have managed to survive the unsurvivable of 9 massive, okay, so a loony. So we're talking this size. Okay, so I hope that transitions.
For UK listeners, that's about the size of a 50 pence piece.
Yep, of 9 blood clots like that, moving through the heart into the lungs. The last one was slightly larger than that, which is what stopped my heart. But otherwise, I was having 9 massive heart attacks through the series of a couple of days. And they told me, they said, one tiny, small, maybe the size of the pen top, will kill somebody. And we cannot believe you're a miracle. We really hope you understand that. I didn't. I honestly didn't at the time. I just thought, I have a secret, and oh my gosh, it's something tremendous. And I just felt I couldn't share it with any of them. Eventually, my neurologist, who actually just retired, was the one I told. And I'm glad, because he believed me. He was my brain specialist. I did have brain damage. I did have heart damage. I did have tremendous lung damage. I did have damage in my legs, lots of damage they had discovered through the vascular system. A lot of my valves were terribly damaged. At one point in time, they said I'd have to have them amputated. I did not want that as part of my experience. I was to have a pacemaker. The electric impulses from the heart to the brain to the heart, were so tremendously buggered up that sometimes it seemed like my heart didn't know what it was supposed to be doing. So sometimes it would beat nicely, and then other times it would just stop. And then it would catch up, like boom, 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 boom. It would be horrendous pounding in my chest that would make me go. And of course, anybody around me, it would freak them out, and it was scary. My heart specialist kept telling me I needed to have the pacemaker. I wanted my body to have time. I did not want to go under the knife right away. I wanted my body to have time. Okay, it took almost a couple of years to get the heart rhythm. I wore heart monitors. I was on blood thinners for a very, very long time. What do I mean by a very long time? We're talking about 25 years on blood thinners.
Goodness.
And my lungs, they said I'd be on oxygen forever. And I actually started doing breath techniques and lung exercises not long after I was released from the hospital. I do it to this day, every day.
How long ago was this experience for you?
27 years.
See, it's a long time ago, isn't it? And yet the experiences that you've had are so fresh in your mind and so strongly there still. They haven't faded, seemingly.
No, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. There was so much. It's so vivid and unforgettable. Have you ever had an experience in life that was truly unforgettable, that was so amazing for people that they remember every aspect of it? They remember the smell of the environment. They remember the presence of the people. They remember like the ambiance of the group. Even what they experienced is very memorable. It's the same thing as people who have had extraordinarily traumatic experiences, where they remember every single aspect of it. It's permanently there. And it's just permanently there. There's no way I could forget it. Dreams we forget, sure. Dreams are on a completely different level, whereas something like this is more realistic than where we're living. I know it sounds crazy too, but it's really truly more, and we feel more, we experience more. Everything is more in depth. Even like the energies are alive. Energy's alive. Energy's moving. Energy has so much depth to it. Frequencies are just incredible. Every sensation is of, never mind an imprint, but it's a re-remembering at the same time. Like, it's impossible to forget it. Even as I had touched the marble column, I can still feel what that felt like. It's incredible. And the light and that higher, you just know you're in the presence of something more.
And you've gone on to use this experience now in your work that you're doing, because you've made this promise to those on the other side that you will Well, what was your promise?
My promise was, first and foremost, I will take all the information I was given about energy and how the human body functions, how energy functions on this plane even, and I will work with that to work with myself first. So that meant physically, psychologically, emotionally. It was every angle you could possibly imagine. It did take time. And to then share that with people, to remind people that we all have the ability to work with energy. We all have the ability to connect within our own energetic systems. We do. We all have the ability, if we so choose, not everybody has to choose, to work with specific frequencies to shift energetic experiences that have left signatures there or memories there. To have the experience is one thing, but to file it in the physical body is another, because this is where stagnation can happen. This is where congested energy can happen, and then things aren't flowing as well as they could be. Don't say should be, because some people don't want to, and that's fine, and everybody's on a different journey. So that's what I share with people. Absolutely. I've shared with people who have had family members who died and they felt a lot of trauma from that. I will talk with them about that as well. People I share with exactly how to bring in sacred and holy light and how to bring that into them. And for why do you want to do that? What's the point of it, right? So I'll share why and the hows. And it could be anything. How to regulate your nervous system. If you have a very deregulated nervous system, you've had a lifetime of fight, flight, or fawn, how to regulate the nervous system, and perhaps they need to, if they choose, to look into those belief structures and how their reflex response is going to be, or not. You could change it. Yeah.
You do this in one-to-one sessions, Heather. You do one-to-one readings for people. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. I do one-to-one sessions with people. So people work with me one time, just one time, unless they join for mentorship. That's a totally different thing. But if you're working with me, it's one time. I do design imagery. I channel the frequency that's best for you to meet you where you are right now, maybe just slightly higher. If it's too high, the physical body cannot retain it, hold it, utilize it very well. If it's too low, it's the same thing, it's pointless. So I always channel to see what's best for somebody. I create images. It helps with visualization skills. These are the images. This is the frequency you're working with. This is how it's going to come into your body. This is what you're working with. And it's one-to-one. You receive the recording. You download the recording. And then you have homework. Hopefully you do it. I can't make anybody do it, but hopefully you do. And if you choose to come back, you choose to come back. I don't make anybody say you must come back.
Yeah.
Then there are other people. I do workshops, I do classes, introduction on how to first work with energy, how to feel it, basically, how to sense it, knowing that you can change and invite different frequencies in. I also have done, since the 90s, late 90s, I should say, early 2000s, of how to meet your guide. How to meet your guide, how to call that. That's a bigger workshop. It's about 4.5 hours, sometimes 5. They're all small groups of people. Prefer to work with smaller groups, not big. How to meet a loved one who has passed over. Like, there's just a lot of different things that I do. Everything's not on the website, simply because it can get confusing if there's too many things. I usually recommend a consult. I had to switch from individual consults to group consults because honestly, I was having a 2-year wait list and it was too far out. And so I had started this year to create group consults of 30 people, no more.
And so if people want to find out about you, Heather, what is your website?
My website is my name, heathermay.ca is the website.
And
So
May is spelled
M-A-E,
M-A-E.
you bet.
Heathermay.ca.
C-A. Yes, C-A. I'm in northern Canada, close to the border of the Northwest Territories. I live very remotely, which was a choice of mine. And or they can email me. I also have a chat on there. So even if people have a question, like I will get to you. There's wait lists. I'm sorry, but everything got booked up by the end of February, which seems to be the way. And then it's wait lists. So if there's something that you would like to take, join the wait list from there. If you have something that is extremely personal that you would like to speak to me about, I would recommend that's when I do the one-to-ones. I do not expect people to be in a group trying to express something that's very personal
Deeply
to them.
personal, yes.
Right? Yeah, don't do
Yeah.
that. Just let me know that it is, and we will create a time for you to meet with me. Also for people who do the holistic service, it does require to have a consult with me to see, are we a good fit? Are we a good fit? What is it that you're experiencing or that you want to work with me with? Because I have no problem to say, oh, you know what? That I can't actually help with this. However, I know somebody. And so I will do a referral. So it's not that I know everything, because I don't. And so if I don't, I will speak up and I will let people know.
Well, you're
Yeah.
doing the most amazing work here, Heather, and you've given us so much of your time today, and I'm really, really grateful for that, because I know that the people listening and watching this on YouTube are going to get so much out of it. So, Heather, thank you very, very much indeed for sharing everything with us, all of that knowledge. I know it's going to go to great use into the minds of those that listen to it. Certainly, it's been food for thought for me, and another reminder that we must keep reaching out with our soul. We must keep reconnecting, always being kind, of course, to everybody here, but to be in service is the greatest gift, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I'm full agreement with that. It's one of the things we're here to do. And I wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much. And you've provided this beautiful, wonderful platform, and filled with so much grace. And I have so much gratitude. So thank you so much for allowing this space and for me to share this. And like I said, even if it helps just one person, that's wonderful. If it's helped many, even wonderful, fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for anybody who takes the time to listen to the whole experience.
Heather May, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
What an extraordinary conversation. Heather May's journey beyond this world offers us not only a glimpse of what lies on the other side, but I think a much deeper understanding of what it means to live fully in this particular lifetime. And her message is very, very clear. We are energetic beings, deeply connected and capable of far more than we've been led to believe. If Heather's story has stirred something inside of you, if it sparked questions, maybe a sense of recognition, or perhaps a desire to explore your own intuitive power, please know you are not alone, and that awakening is part of the work she came back to help us to do. And you'll find all of Heather's links and offerings in the show notes, as well as below this video on YouTube. And if this episode moved you, please consider sharing it so that more people can remember who they truly are and what their soul purpose truly is. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and keep listening to the whispers of your soul. My name is Anne Teato, and thank you for listening to Psychic Matters.
You have been watching the Psychic Matters podcast with Anne Theodo, the only podcast to push forward the boundaries of human consciousness to redefine the significance of living. Subscribe now so you don't miss future episodes.